was driving on the empty highway, fighting to keep my eyes open. It was well past 1 a.m., and I couldn't help but look at the GPS every few seconds, hoping the estimated arrival time would somehow go down faster. I'd been on the road for a dangerous 15 hours straight, only stopping for food and gas on the way to my new home. I'd been forced to move for work, yet, funnily enough, it was work that never let me take a trip to see the place I'd be moving to. Finally, though, I made it to the highway exit and into the town I'd be living in. It was dark, so it wasn't exactly easy to see what everything looked like. But I could see enough to tell it wasn't as good as where ID lived, before most of the buildings looked like locally owned and run shops that were far from what I was used to. Along with that, most of the lights were off when I got to my neighborhood, though it wasn't all that bad. The houses were pretty regular sectioned close to each other. I pulled up to my house and parked on the side of the road, then got out to see the place I'd be calling home for the next year from the outside. It looked like all the others, but what really mattered was the inside. I walked up the driveway and pulled out the key I'd been sent a few days ago, putting it in the lock and turning it, but there was no click. I grabbed the handle and pressed on the door, watching it glide open. It was already unlocked. I quickly went in and looked to make sure that my things were there, as movers had dropped everything off in the morning. After a quick look, nothing seemed to be missing. I knew it was likely that the movers had just forgotten to lock the place up, but it still gave me a bad feeling on top of all that, though the lights and electricity didn't work. I knew I had to set it up in town, and it was obviously too late at this point to do it tonight. But I didn't think they would just cut the power. I turned my phone light on and started looking through the rooms. The downstairs was okay, pretty standard looking, but with a slightly older sort of feel to it. I made my way up to the second floor. At the top of the stairs was a long hallway with 5 doors. I stepped into each of the rooms, one by one, shining my phone light around. They were all very small, and a lot of them had water damage on the ceiling and walls. But when I opened the door to the master bedroom, I was surprised to see a single tarp laying on the floor. It looked dirty, like maybe something the movers had used to wrap furniture with. But what made it so odd was that there was nothing at all upstairs aside from that tarp. All the furniture and boxes were downstairs. I took a step back and closed the door. I was already so tired. I just wanted this night to be over with. I really didn't want to crowd my mind with the uncertainties of moving here. I went back downstairs and sat on one of the sofa chairs that was still wrapped up in plastic and rested my eyes. My eyes jolted open as a sudden thud echoed throughout the house from above me. Honestly, I don't even know if I'd fallen asleep or not. All I remember was sitting down and closing my eyes. The sound was harsh, though not just some small thump. I stood up and went to the bottom of the Saint Stairs. Looking up at the dark hallway, the house was now silent. I must have stood there for a whole minute before taking my phone out and turning on the flashlight. Then, slowly walking up the creaky stairs when I got to the top of the steps and shined the light down the hallway. I immediately saw the door at the far end was slightly open, and the unmistakable outline of a figure was standing between the crack in the doorway, looking right at me. I almost fell backwards down the steps, as my immediate reaction was to turn and run. I sprinted for the front door and straight out into the driveway and into my car. thought about driving away, but knowing literally all of my things were inside that house, I wanted to make sure whoever was in there didn't make it out with anything I called 911, and waited for their arrival on the side of the road during the whole 5 minutes. I never saw any movement in the windows or anyone leave through the front when the police searched the house, though the back door was wide open. It was obvious to them that whoever that was had been living inside the house, probably since it had been vacant over the past couple months at first. I thought they were talking about the attic, since I'd looked through all the rooms and saw nothing but a tarp, but there was no attic. They were talking about the master bedroom, which meant that when I was looking around upstairs that night and I opened the door to that room, it's likely that the person was hiding along the wall, probably right behind the door. And if I had gone further inside the room to investigate the tarp and look around, there's a chance that I wouldn't have made it.